Man, I feel something's going fishy on here. I don't know where these cards are. Where did you say those cards are? They're in the what? How long have they been there? Since last night? Hello, welcome company of heroes, backers, and enthusiasts. I just want to show off these plastic cards. Not sure if you saw them in our last video. These are the final stretch goal component upgrade, and they look as good as new. They've been in there apparently since last night. If you missed that video, just to go over it quickly, this is just going to be probably a long video until either the camera battery dies or until I get to cover everything. What this video is going to cover is all of, basically I got a bunch of samples from the factory, and I just want to show, basically I got some of these things 3D printed, and I want to show, you know, how they look painted, how they're going to look from the factory. Almost everything's in white. The buildings are in kind of a different looking white. So you might not see all the details, but I do want to get to that. But to kind of quickly recap on that last video in case you missed it, there was two final stretch goals that were to be determined in case you didn't catch that in that last video or you weren't aware or you're a late backer. One of them was that kind of charity, you know, profits going towards charity terrain pack 4 with the mega bunker. I have that to show here. It might get updated, but it actually works better than I thought. And also the final stretch goal, which I just mentioned, is the building boards, commander cards, Lost Brigade cards, and operations deck, all upgraded to plastic. And you can't see in the video, I checked the last video, but the building boards here are textured, and I'm going to push for that option as well if we can get that, because they feel really nice. But moving on, I don't want to waste your time in case you did already catch that one. Where to start? I guess the resource tokens, if you missed that, they look pretty good. And the AI cards. I am going to show a couple things off with them, just to kind of show how they're going to look a little bit, because I didn't quite show everything. This is, like I said, this could be a long video. I'm not going to worry about how long it takes. You might want to save it for when you have time or whatever. You can obviously see the length once it's uploaded on YouTube. But where do we want to start? Well, let's start with just showing a little bit more of the things that you can actually see. We're going to start with showing off a Terrain Pack 1 flag that's captured in the resource, so you can kind of see that kind of nice view there with the fuel there on that side, and then the double fuel on that side. Just kind of showing that off. It doesn't look 100%, like, I don't know if it's because of my paint or what, but it's not 100% form-fitting, but it's pretty good. It's pretty close. I think that's passable in my opinion, but just wanted to show that off. And just, you know, just for questions for people that I've seen in the past with, like, hey, can we get the solo AI tokens to fit in buildings? So here's one of my buildings, Terrain Pack 1 that I painted, and here's a solo AI token, and you can see here it slots in. So I just kind of want to get that stuff out of the way, and then the last little bit with the AI tokens I want to show off that I didn't get to show off is you can kind of see that, yeah, an infantry tray, for instance, can fit on. Obviously, a vehicle tray is going to be bigger than the cards itself, right? So just kind of showing you the reference of what size these cards are. They're a good size, though. And just want to get that out of the way before we get into the new models. All right, so moving on here. We did get a sample. I just want to show this. This isn't a stretch goal, but I just want to show this. This is what the new emplacements are going to look like. So in second edition, they're kind of this blank. They are going to be cardboard, but they are, you know, they can be used for any emplacement in the game. And then, as I'm going to show later, here's a 3D emplacement. This one is a OKW flak emplacement. But we'll get to that in a second here. Well, I guess with OKW, let's just since I started on that, let's go with that. So we'll start with the 3D models for OKW. So this was an earlier version, just kind of showing off. Let's just show off the kind of what we were considering, and then kind of what we're gonna go with. And so here is the Tier 2 building. So this is kind of what we were looking at and considering earlier. This is kind of like, I think, a backer came up with this. Sorry if I forgot your name. But these were pretty popular, being 3D printed for people that wanted a tier building setup. And then this is like what we're going to go with. So I didn't get a sample for like a flag to stick in this. I'm not sure if that was, I just don't know if we have a model for that or that was kind of discussed yet. But I think we were showing a flag in this terrain, the tier building for OKW. But yeah, this truck's a little bit smaller. This truck's kind of like embedded. And then this top, I'm just going to kind of pull it out. It was a very tight fit. I kind of sanded it down before this video just so it can kind of be removed a little bit easier. But how it works is you're going to have, it comes in a few different pieces. So here's like for the dice, here's the base. It actually says it on the bottom, supply base, tier 1 to 3. Should say actually probably tier 2 to 3. But I think that was a little bit confusion. We actually had a model. I received a model for for tier 1, but tier 1's not on the board for OKW. Just tier 2 and tier 3. So there is the kind of the spotting truck. It's kind of a concept from CoH 2 that I kind of came up with for OKWs. Every faction in the game has a way to spot camo and have foresight, and I just embedded it in the tier 2 OKW building. And basically they had a vehicle in CoH2 that could kind of had that infrared, so I kind of merged that with the tier building concept. And this is how it came out. I actually think it looks fantastic. It's got the sandbags, like I said, the 3 dice slots, and then this just slots in, it kind of pulls out. And yeah, look fantastic painted. Just kind of like, just showing as a reference again, the one I painted that. I kind of painted it red for the infrared spotlight. But yeah, that looks absolutely, I think, fantastic. I couldn't be happier. So I'm going to just slide that out, and we're going to go on to tier 3 here. So the tier 3 building with the flak 88. And now showing, and mine had just like a flak 37. Just like kind of like their flak gun that the Stern Pioneer can build. But you can kind of see that, yeah, I mean, you get that turning sideways. Hopefully you can see in white. I'm sorry if you're not going to be able to see in white. I can try to hold it up maybe a little bit closer. Not sure how well it's going to focus. But yeah, I mean, it looks really nice. I'm really happy with how these turned out. And yeah, you just need basically 2 bases, 2 of these dice trays, and then 1 tier 2 and 1 tier 3 for for the OKW tier buildings, and that's all that's needed there. So I'm going to swing around now to still OKW, but now going with, kind of going to show off, just again, obviously these are still samples, and obviously the models that I painted, they're my painted. They come supplied unpainted. But they're going to be in the faction color. So when you see this in white, this isn't going to be in white. I think OKW was kind of this, if I remember right, light blue. It's funny that I can't even remember once you paint it. But I just want to show off a Stug, a Panther, and how the one that the factory got to, and added this cool little MG up top. But this thing looks really sharp. Hopefully it shows it off here. But it looks really good. A lot of detail. There are some flat surfaces for sure, but there's a lot of little cool stuff that, once you see it kind of like painted like mine, I think it'll come out really, really nice. But this is basically OKW's anti-infantry tier 3 option. Again, it's available part of the Lost Brigade's commanders, as well as it's on a Lost Brigade card. And it kind of, the whole concept of the Lost Brigade expansion, if you're not familiar with it, was to kind of lean into those assault rules. So this gains a bonus. One of the assaults, it can target 2 different targets entirely and do its full damage. So it's kind of conceptualized a little bit off the British Centaur, but it requires it to assault. It's got 3 health and it gets a defense die because of its kind of, you know, compact structure there. So it'd be harder to hit, kind of low to the ground. And then obviously just showing off the, I like to show off the Stoogs if you get a Stoog pack, man. These things are really fun to paint. So that is OKW. I think that's everything with Oscar. I guess again I'll just hold up the. They don't get the emplacements, but if you get the emplacement pack, OKW has the second most, if you're not familiar, emplacements. They do have the Flak 37 gun that's buildable by the Sturm Pioneer. And this is basically how you're going to get this. Again, this is, I actually bought these dice, these pip dice, but something, you know, purple die, pip die like that, that size is available in both the update kit as well as the core set. So you'll have those. So like when you place it on the board, you'll place the setup die, the pip die for the 2 health, and then the flak gun in the emplacement if you get it. Otherwise, yeah, again, just showing that token. It's fully functional. I mean, it just, you know, obviously it's 2D, but it definitely, if you don't get it, it definitely serves the purpose just fine. All right, so that's it for OKW. Next, I want to go into, I guess we'll go into Wehrmacht. Showing them off. Again, I kind of want to show basically a vehicle tray. So if you get the, I actually, they don't come with the kind of the dirty snow that I put in it. They don't come with that, but this is a clear one that I took and I just added a little bit of snow into it. And I have 2 sets personally. One set I did for snow, one for summer, and then here's my winter Wehrmacht set. And just showing that off, that, yeah, I mean, the vehicle trays, I think, you know, I personally recommend them. They're actually, the problem is they, you know, some people like them, some people don't, so, you know, it's a personal taste thing, so we kind of decided to take them out of the core set, because there wasn't enough anyway. So like if you play with a bunch of people, you know, you're probably going to want multiple. If you're playing like 6, 8 people, you're going to probably want, you know, multiple of that set. But yeah, now showing the, again, I'm going to show it in a different, you know, it's going to look the same vehicle tray. But here's the 251 that I had 3D printed. And then here is the one from the factory. And now, yeah, so this is fully modular. So I actually, yeah, this is really, really neat. So this is the infantry model. So you can just, it just slots in. And then if you get the upgrades, there should be 2 flame guns. I only got 1. But I'll try to make sure that we get 2 in there, because there is 2 holes for it. But this looks really sweet. And then again, yeah, so if you get the +2 flame damage upgrade, boom, you could slot this in. And yeah, so it says on the bottom, SDK of Z251, and then also tells you 251 flame on the bottom, so it's all there. Yeah, and it looks really nice, I think. And then, yeah, I'll just hold them up without the tray, just so you can kind of see the kind of the comparison. And then here's the infantry one. So it looks like, you know, they kind of got those seats there, just like the one I have that isn't modular, that I had 3D printed. And then here is the Pack 40, the +2 AP damage upgrade. And I think this is really cool too. Like this whole system. Chris had this idea, and this was his kind of favorite unit, I think from CoH2, so he really wanted it in, and he really wanted this modularity, and I was like, I don't know, is that going to work out? Can we pull it off? And I think this is fantastic. So these are the 3. I don't know what's showing in the Kickstarter image, just so you know. These are what the upgrades you can get. They are, again, this is that Lost Brigades expansion. These are on a Lost Brigade card. And the Lost Brigade card, I actually made it so you can actually purchase either upgrade. So if you do go the 251, its kind of special ability is spawning infantry forward adjacent to it. It's got reinforce, it's a retreat point. So it's a really cool, unique unit for Wehrmacht, who doesn't really have that anywhere else in its kit. So anywhere else within the faction. Alright, so Where else? So this is kind of my summer Wehrmacht infantry. Kind of wanted. I guess I don't know if I showed it in the building, but I mean that's in the building, and then I'm going to show it again shortly in the other buildings. But we'll swing back to that. Maybe I can show it with the TP3 cover. All right, so covered Wehrmacht. I guess let's swing around to British since I have it right here. So here's that kind of again that emplacement. I colored this one kind of my British summer scheme. Yeah, the Bofors just has a tendency to sag here. These saggy Bofors, but yeah, they look really cool in there. Again, that emplacement pack. So this is for, just as a reminder, for any new British faction box. I believe you get 4. That's correct, hopefully. And then also there's the emplacement pack if you want more. Again, mostly British and OKW use emplacements, and then a few other commanders from other factions do, but not enough that, like, hey, if you're like a 2-player core set, definitely don't get the emplacements. It just doesn't, you know, it's not going to really come up. And then we'll swing over to the Lost Brigade for British, the Valentine. And I doubt this is going, although they did show it with the gaps, but I'm not sure if that's going to be final or not, because normally our other models don't have that. But here's the one I had printed. I don't think this was a Valentine Mach 11 turret, but I do know they kind of progressively, they did, Mach 11s, they kept upgrading this tank. It was very popular. It was lend-leased over to the Soviets, and they loved it too. But so here's the Mach 11, and it is yeah, we got the bigger gun from the factory again. I didn't put it in hot water yet, but it looks really nice. So you can kind of see it painted in kind of my desert scheme, my summer scheme for British, and then with the Mach 11. I think this is the 75mm. If I recall, they actually ended up getting on it by the Mach 11. Just they kept trying to upgrade it and use it as much as possible because it was very reliable. So that's it for British. So let's keep moving. Soviets have a couple cool things. I don't want to miss this. And US has a lot of cool stuff. So let's go to, let's go to the Soviets next. So how the Soviets, basically, they get the KV-8. And how we're doing the KV-8 is we're going to still use, it's just going to be a note that we're not going to have it engraved KV-8 because it's the same model. We're not going to pay for another mold that says the same thing. But it's got that KV-8 turret. You will get a KV-2 base included in the Lost Brigades. But because it's I think ECC, if I remember right, the Elite Commanders Collection, that the KV-2 is in. But this KV-8 flame tank, and then I had one 3D printed here. And yeah, I had a little bit different chassis, so kind of ignore that. But it's going to have the same KV-2, kind of, I think they're the fuel canisters. But yeah, so that's kind of how that one comes out. But yeah, you can kind of see how I painted it. I like to kind of paint tips of my barrels black. But yeah, so that's hopefully you can see that in the image. But yeah, that's gonna be really cool. It's kind of like OKW's flame tank. It's Soviets version. That's kind of their anti-infantry tier 3 heavy vehicle tank. That's kind of common among the factions, and it has assault rule as well. Gains an extra flame damage when assaulting or targeting a building directly. So if you target a building without infantry in it or anything, you get to do 2 flame and damage, and with that recent change of building health down to 2, you'll just knock it out most regular standard buildings. Alright, we'll swing over to US. The US has a lot of cool stuff. Let's start with showing off the Shermans. Oh, sorry, the Soviets. I don't want to miss. I just moved them over here. So also in the Soviet core box, we had the stretch goal for the, man, this thing's awesome. It's going to say it on the bottom too, T-3485. And yeah, I mean, that turret just looks insanely awesome. Really sweet. So you'll see that 85, hopefully, I mean, it's white, so hopefully you can still see some of the details, but compared to the 75mm turret, it looks really nice. So I'm really looking forward to painting this one. But yeah, so that you can kind of hopefully see them. If I can put them sideways, you can kind of see there that 85 is quite a bit longer. But yeah, it looks really nice. And this is in the core box for the Soviets and the update kit. So just so everyone knows here in case you missed it. But so that's it for the Soviets. And then swinging around to US. Let's start with, let's start with the Sherman. So here's the Sherman. Here's the Sherman 75 millimeter. And it's got the sandbags and everything cool. But yeah, so that's how it, the base 75 is. And then here is the 76, and we kind of put it's also, I believe, maybe there's a slightly different variant, or maybe it's slightly different for the EZ8, but I believe the EZ8 uses the 76 millimeter as well. But yeah, I really wanted it to also have the MG on it, and obviously it's got that muzzle brake at the end, so it's got that really nice. You can kind of see, hopefully you can kind of see the difference between the two turrets, but this one looks really sweet. Now it's a 76, so the second edition, actually, the Sherman was changed so that when you get the AP upgrade, it's to show, it starts with 1 AP now, you can upgrade to the 2 AP, so you can feel free to put it in there if you want, in addition to the AP die, instead of the AP die, as long as everyone at the table knows what's going on. But that's kind of the thing. So it's for there is a commander that says Sherman 76. You can just put it on for that, put it on for the EZ8s. They both use the Sherman chassis, just like the Soviet T-34-85 uses the base chassis here, the T-34 chassis. So I just want to show it, I guess, showing off compared to the Pershing, which I believe was a 90 millimeter. But yeah, you can kind of see it there. But it looks really nice. And then I'm going to swing back to the Pershing to show it off. But let's just start with the Wolverine to the Jackson. So this is in the Lost Brigades now. So that the Sherman is in the core, the update kit. Obviously, the U.S. faction box as well. So depending on how you get it, if you get a 2-player core set, you'll get that turret in addition. So here is the Wolverine. It's kind of the U.S. tank destroyer. Again, you can just kind of take advantage of their doctrine with the whole tank destroyer and doctrine, kind of keeping them mobile, in support whenever there's a tank battle. But so this Jackson turret, man, we got the option for the the MG up there. Doesn't do any AI damage, but this might be the best tank destroyer in the game. It's got 4 range, 4 AP. It only gets 1 speed die, and it's got the lowest health, to show that it's got the open top and stuff out of all these kind of tank destroyers in the game. But I think this looks really sweet. So it's got that same, the turret looks even longer, or is it the same exact, it is supposed to be the same as the Pershing, but yeah, so it's kind of to show it off, because it looks kind of close, it should be the same, basically, gun on it. So there's the Wolverine, and then there's the Jackson, so showing that off. And again, that one is in the Lost Brigade box, so you kind of get 2 things, because you also get for US the kind of their answer to the heavies. It's not, it's not the Jumbo, which might be more thematically accurate or more historically accurate, but we did get the 105 bulldozer in there, and so here's my kind of painted one that I had. Just I think Rudy again from the Discord, he was the one I had 3D print me these. I don't even know how long it was. I think over a year ago. Once we knew kind of what we were gonna do, it was well over a year ago now. Man, time flies. But here's one from the factory, and you can see. I was thinking they were going to do it more as parts. I don't want to try to take it apart because I don't want to break anything, but it looks pretty solid. And then it also tells you it's the 105 dozer, and it says it on the base too, like all of them. So the only ones that aren't in the end, I think, are the Elephant, and again that KV8 is going to say KV2 on the chassis on the bottom there. But yeah, this 105, this is kind of the heaviest US because it's got a 6 health and a defense die, and the Pershing's also got 6 health, so it's kind of there. They don't really have very beefy tanks, whatever, as like the Soviets do. Alright, so to show off, so I think that's it for Lost Brigades. There's a lot for Lost Brigades. And yeah, just kind of to show like some updates with the rules, I guess, because I had that infantry model out. But to show like, so now in 2nd edition, infantry can go and destroy buildings. So if you get terrain pack 2, they can, you know, kind of, you can, you know, however you want to do it, if you want to move it and then pull them or drop them in. So you can do that with terrain pack 2. Otherwise, you can just, you know, it's got the purple lines around the hex, or if a building gets destroyed, you can just put a white cube there. So here's the, first I'll show, well actually no, let's before we go into that, let's go into the captured Panther, because I did show this off last time. I had a bunch, I had like 5 painted, or sorry, 5 printed and then painted. Show some winter and summer ones, but so this is, so again, mine, in case you missed that video, I had mine, I had mine done a little bit differently, because I wasn't too sure how this was going to come out, but now that I kind of showed it off, the captured, recaptured Panther, however you want to call it. It's very cool, universal vehicle commander. It's kind of the pinnacle. I thought it would be cool. That was kind of my idea. I thought, like, what's kind of the coolest vehicle that we could do, and you know, and make it available for all factions. So I was pretty excited that we got to pull it off. But so this flagpole here in this version, I was a little bit worried about it. So I actually think it's actually really sweet. So you can just pull it off, and then there's 2 versions. I'll show it. Like, so this one's got spikes. You can kind of just, I kind of like the spikes more. I wish they weren't maybe as sharp, but this is the same flag. So if I take it off a vehicle, it is a little bit thicker, just like the normal flagpoles from TP1, and takes a flag, so you can kind of see it like that. And then there's the other option, which is a little bit more, you know, maybe friendly to the fingers. But this one doesn't have the spikes, and a little bit more sleek, if you will. And yeah, I mean, I think it looks good. I mean, it's just, you know, kind of as a different one I showed, printed, 3D printed and painted. Hopefully shows it off, but it looks really sweet. I'm very happy with how it came out. It's got the MG and the sights, you know, the open hatch. It just looks a little bit different than the regular gate. Even if you're OKW, it does look noticeably different than their regular Panther. So it just kind of looks pretty sweet as like a command vehicle. Alright, so that's it for that. So now let's move on to, I guess, Terrain Pack 3. Let's go with the first, I guess, let's show the infantry bridge. So we got 2 variations. One, it's a little bit filled in at the bottom, one's not. I don't really think it matters. I don't really think it's too noticeable. But for Moro River, this is kind of for that Moro River, that main map. You kind of put them on the center hexes, and I think they look really, it looks, you know, it's very functional and easy to just put them on there. And I think it'll look really nice. Just you know, a cool little, I think there's just going to be 2 in the box, obviously, because there's 2 footbridges on that map. So it's kind of nice, some nice little thing that we got in there. Alright, so moving on, I kind of want to do the Terrain Pack 3 building. So let's go with that. So on the top part, let's kind of show it individual first. So this is the top. You're probably not, there's actually a lot of detail here, and there's no way that I'd be surprised if the camera's picking it up, because this thing looks really sweet. You know, once you get some paint and some shading on it, I'm sure it'll look fantastic. But so we had both the front. This is actually a very tight fit. I actually like the tight fit. We'll kind of discuss the opposite on the other. But so you can choose if you want the front or back off. So if it's easier to slide in the infantry, or you could, if you want, you can. I'm probably not going to put it on right in camera, but yeah, you could probably, as long as you don't have, you know, huge hand fingers, you know, you can just probably still, but you might want at least one side off. So that's kind of why we're doing the top like this. I think the top looks pretty nice. And then you could use this as a standalone building. You know, if there's some of those bigger maps if you want a bunch. But this is that top part of the factory. And then if you kind of look at the bottom half here. So this, I don't want to, I really don't want to touch it, but because it's actually all modular, this whole top. And I'm actually gonna I see what I think we were trying to do with it, have it be both option as a building and a destroyed building. You know, so like I actually think the best way is to recommend leaving it up to the player, saying, hey, do I want to use this model? You know, I think first of all I want to say that I think it's a little tight. I don't even want, because I think it's going to fall off if I try to slide it on. I think I kind of want the sides in a little bit further. You might lose a little bit visually, but I think making that tier 2, I think due to the modularity, you would just remove the sides and then put the top on. And I can kind of show it here with the other one. If you do it like that, you know, you could just, you know, do it like that on the board without the sides. But I think, at least my recommendation is to kind of pull in these edges a little bit more so the top can just go on, and then actually have this be a model if we can. That's going to be my recommendation. Just have it all like this, because it is kind of a little bit puzzly and whatever you want to say, jigsaw-y, whatever. And some people, you know, if the advantage of this is people could do what they want. Do they want to glue it? Do they want, you know, what do they want? But I think having it as a solid model, you know, just to reduce that setup time, you know, I think that's kind of would be really nice. But yeah, so then this is, like, my recommendation is to have this as like the, you know, the factory, you know, the 2-story factory, and then when it gets destroyed, just take off the top and have this, use this as a destroyed building. That's kind of my recommendation. But then, like I said, if it's not modular anymore, I'd recommend that you could use it either way and say, hey, look, we're going to use these, you know, if you want to make it look different than the, you know, the Train Pack 1 houses on the board. You know, you could choose which one, however you want to show it off. So here is the smokestack, and then that kind of, where's the door? So it's on this side, and I think it looks pretty neat. My only concern with it currently with this sample is that it's a little bit loose. You can probably see it wobbling, like a fall, you know. Very loose. I kind of want either this little piece, not sure if you can see it on camera, to be taller, maybe thicker, more of a snug fit overall. So there's kind of that option there. So that's kind of the cool thing about this one, is it's very modular. But you can kind of slide that out and just turn it into kind of like a little, you know, extra. It's got a little door on it. So there's a little like attachment to the house if you don't want the stack. And then the other one, so there's the 2 buildings, you know, a pair of 2 buildings, so 4 total of these 2-story factories. But there's also got the barrel option, so you're going to have 2 of these. That just, I actually really like the system. It's pretty cool. So I think that's going to look really nice painted. You're probably not seeing it now, unfortunately. It probably just looks like a white block on the screen, unfortunately. But I think it looks really nice. There's a lot of detail. Fantastic job by the modeler, and I'm just very excited and can't wait to paint that. So now going with let's stick with Train Pack 3 and finish it up with the cover. This is probably the one that's going to stand out the most. I actually think it's very well done with the bushes, the trees. My only recommendation with this one, I want to show it. I kind of want to show it with the infantry if I can. And then also show it compared to a sandbag. So here's again a sandbag. And then here is the... so this is the tree bush light cover. I actually am going to recommend that we turn these trees into pine, you know, coniferous trees, pine trees, whatever. I just call them pine naturally because that's what's, you know, commonly local to me. But just those winter, you know, coniferous trees, just so that because light cover is very prominent on the snow maps, so Stalingrad and Ardennes Forest. I think it would look really nice for that. Next, we'll just, as I've got the infantry there, show that stone wall. This is heavy cover. I think this looks really nice. It's actually got some pretty good details. A little bit of stuff you could paint for like vines and like weeds. I think it looks fantastic. Great job again. Next, I'll go with the stone wall. So this is kind of, I think how we show it off is really on the monastery map. And for impassable terrain, those red lines on the map, and I think this is going to look really nice painted. And yeah, just fantastic, I think. Job there. And then here is kind of what I put in the rulebook as, I call it the flexible one, that you can use it. It's a fence and bush. You can kind of use it as, hey, I need extra for this map. I need extra heavy or light cover. I kind of bill it as kind of the one that you can have it fill in. It's got this kind of tree stump that's pretty tall. I think it's great, but I think it would be cool extra, if you want to call it mini stretch goal or modification, I'm going to discuss with the team, is seeing if we can get, I think it would be really cool to be able to slot in a flag here for kind of the borders of your base. Because in the core set, we have these like base tokens, and I'm recommending in the rulebook to kind of put them in your spawn areas on the outsides to kind of show your team where the spawn is. But I think it'd be really sweet to use these. Kind of feel a little bit more like the video game in some ways, of like showing, hey, here's our base. So to kind of use one of these, I think it would be really sweet. And it wouldn't, just drill a hole, really? I think it would work with kind of that same exact flagpole we have for the Command Panther. So we already have like this done, we just kind of need to drill a hole in it, so hopefully we can get that done, because I think they'd be really sweet. So I think that's it with the infantry, with all the cover. And I think that what everyone's been waiting for is that Terrain Pack 4 Mega Bunker. So I guess that's how we'll wrap it up. So this is a little bit, I think it's a little bit slightly different plastic. It might be as the same. I'm going to try to hold this entirely in my hand. But let me actually start by showing, because in case you missed it, in case anyone that was watching this video missed this, but this is the old Terrain Pack 2 bunker. There's 2 of them in there. And how they work is, they could, let me just kind of show this off first before we get to that. You know, you could definitely hide an infantry in there, certainly. But I think what a lot of players wanted to do is, I kind of designed mine with a lot of bit of like, vegetation growth on it, so that it's more of a flat surface, because I think this is what a lot of people wanted to do with them. But without that, it's very unstable. So what I actually push for, not only with Terrain Pack 4, is actually to get the Terrain Pack 2. These are fantastic molds, don't get me wrong, they look fantastic as bunkers, but to actually replace the ones in Terrain Pack 2, which also has that cathedral, which I showed off in that last video, again, my painted one, but to replace the 2 bunkers with single bunkers from Terrain Pack 4. And yeah, so let's just kind of show it off, and then I'll drop the Terrain Pack 2 here. And yeah, I was a little bit worried when I saw this, and we were kind of discussing this in multiple meetings, like, hey, can this, face multiple ways? Is it, I was a little bit worried with the sides. I don't really think it's an issue. I was worried you're going to have to rotate the thing, but I definitely think there's enough room to get it in whatever orientation you want. So I don't know if it kind of clips a little bit when I'm rotating it that way, but you're not going to really be rotating that much, and it's I don't know, how much are you going to be rotating the model once you put it on? I don't really think that much. But these are cool because these have the top off, so if you want to, you could, drop them in, however you want to play, like however you want to use it. If you want to kind of do those hidden rules that we have with Terrain Pack 1, you could feel free to do so. I think most people imagine they're just going to put them on the top like this. But so how it's going to come in Terrain Pack 2, there's going to be 2 of these single hex ones. And then in Terrain Pack 4 is the Mega Bunker. So it comes with 2 of the 2 hex ones. And then, yeah, this is going to be hard to hold all entirely in my hand, but I think I can pull it off here. There we go. It's close. I'm not going to be able to pull it off on camera, of course. Yeah. Let me try one more time because I really want to show this off as best as I can without adjusting the camera. I think if I hold it a certain way and put pressure on the insides, I think I can hold it and show it off. There we go. Alright. But I think fantastic job. I'm very happy with this model, how it turned out. But yeah, it doesn't really, there's like slots where it doesn't groove in or anything, but it's a nice fit, so I think even if you paint it, it'll come out really nice. Yeah, just so you know, like, everything here again is in white. I imagine we did with the buildings, we did gray, and I imagine this will be gray. How it'll ship to backers in a gray, you know, color. Here's my infantry I was looking for, but yeah, you can kind of see, hopefully that helps with the scale. But, so this is on the Hill 331. It is optional, so if you don't have Terrain Pack 4, in the mission, it's going to show, hey, optional Mega Bunker. And then I'm going to also put it optional on a few more other missions that have the bunker or double bunker. So, like, there's very commonly in 2nd edition is these kind of double bunkers. And the concept was really just that multi-hex building and really kind of take advantage of fighting within a building. Since the rules really, I think, worked out pretty cool, fighting within a building. Just to show that off. So you're going to see a lot more on the 2nd edition maps in the mission book. Just an optional, like for Stalingrad, for Ardennes. They actually have it graphically on the map. But it's like Terrain Pack 4 will work really nice with this. You can also, I mean, even if you have the old TP2 bunkers, they're bigger than this. It's like a little bit bulkier than a hex anyway. You can kind of put it between, and you know, I'm sure you could, you know, show it however you want to show it that they're, you know, fighting within. But I think this Terrain Pack 4 is going to be really sweet on those maps. So that's kind of the highlight of those. So those maps. And on that note, on the Legacy map pack, someone asked me to mention this, or at least in an update or something. I'll just mention it here. Is some of the larger maps, even starting at 3 panel, which is recommended for 2v2s, they do require, especially those old maps, require 2 sets of the Legacy map pack. So if you're someone that wants to play at those higher player counts, you may look into that. I personally don't recommend, unless, you know, this is going to be your, you know, your weekly game. Don't get me wrong, I think it's a fantastic game, and it is worthy of being your weekly game for a long time. But unless you're looking to definitely do that, I think for most people, 1 Legacy map pack, unless you're playing at those higher counts, is going to be enough. But yeah, this Terrain Pack 4, I can't wait to paint this and use this. I really want to get a Hill 331 with this Mega Bunker on the table, get some paint on this, just base it and start painting it. It's a lot of smooth edges. I think the old one kind of had a lot of, you know, smooth edges, had a little bit more grooves and, you know, some fancy stuff. But I think this has still got the ladder, the windows, the door, and if you dress it up like I do, I think you can get it pretty nice looking. I think. But the key thing that we wanted to go with, just it's got a little hatch here too, and little slots for dice. But the key thing that we wanted to focus on with the new bunker is functionality. That was kind of one of our, you know, the biggest concerns we heard from backers for 1st edition was that Terrain Pack 2 bunker, the functionality of it. And now we're looking to really give the option. So again, on the roof, just to you know, easy access, take the roof off. There's a little divider. Put the infantry inside. However you want to do it, you know, however you prefer, you know, very, very easy, very functional. I was worried about even, you know, the rotation, but, you know, we might still discuss it, but I don't think it's as big of a concern as I had with it. I think it works out great. So hopefully that covers everything. This is, like, I kind of warned you, a super long video. Hopefully I covered everything that everyone was looking for with the models. But I'm very excited. I couldn't be pleased. I mean, I had a lot of this stuff, as you've seen, 3D printed, because I wanted to test it in person, test the functionality, test everything as much as possible to give the best product to backers. Both, tabletop simulator for just that game volume, but I did want to definitely see everything in person, the 3D models. Hopefully if you had any questions, TP3, again, just to kind of highlight it, you can use it as both. Two options. My recommendation is kind of use it almost like sandbags. That's kind of what I recommend in the rule book. So if, like, I'm coming up and normally, a regular infantry would build a sandbag, but instead you could just, then put it on the board. So it's a little bit less setup, and then it gives you that option to make it destructible, where, hey, look, I can just, if it takes the damage just like a sandbag would, boom, it's destroyed. And you can just put, like, a cube there to show it's been destroyed on that hex. And then that cover no longer has hex. So that's what I recommend, just because when you have all this stuff on the board with Train Pack 1 and all these buildings and units. But you can also, I do mention in there, if you want to set up as much terrain, this TP3 cover as possible. I know, I think Stefan from the Discord there, he kind of had the maps made, and I'm kind of a little jealous on that because I haven't had the maps made yet. But so the maps, and he actually had some 3D printed covers. So if you're on the Discord, you can kind of see what he's done with it. And I think he painted most of his stuff, if not all of it. So it looks really nice, and he likes to put it on the board. That's really a personal preference thing, because it really helps with the visual. One thing that we wanted to highlight is make it as accessible as possible. Another concern was for, like, that light cover, heavy cover. We came up with that dot and dash system, so, like, there's 2 dots, it's heavy cover, it's green line. So, like, people that have, like, colorblind concerns, we hopefully address them. We're going to try to get a lot of samples with the maps, with trying to get the right opacity. I think it was a little bit low. It kind of made the board look really nice, until you're like, oh, is that cover? And it's a really delicate issue, right? Because, like, what's more important, is the visualization important, or is, like, seeing, hey, is that cover there? Am I moving through a red line? Is that impassable? So we want to get that as best as we can. And then, with the TP3, if you get that, I think it'll look really sweet on the board. But obviously the rocks you would put on for the heavy, impassable, terrain, especially on that monastery map, string them along. I think it's going to look really good on that map if you get the terrain pack 2 with the cathedral. So again, hopefully that's it. I'm going to wrap it up here. If you have any questions, Discord, BGG. If you still need a support help, again, in case you missed it, get the ticket in. We'll get to it even if the pledge manager is closed. But I think we are going to be wrapping it up. I don't know when I think this video I'm going to try to get tonight, but when you're going to watch this video, but we're going to try to close down the pledge manager on GameFound there and start getting this stuff absolutely finalized. I think these samples, I'm very pleased with them. My only concern generally is just the tightness. I mean, I think first edition found that right tightness on, like, the turrets and stuff, just that right amount of friction. So, like, a lot of the stuff I kind of sanded down, and I think we just want to, I don't know if we can just work with the factory or the modelers, whoever we need to work with, but I just want that right amount. Especially if you paint it, you may have to sand it. Like, I sanded my turrets a little bit so that I can get, especially with paint, because I kind of, whatever you're going to say, accidentally painted over them, but I just wanted that, however you want, I think that's pretty cool, the toy factor. But that's it. So thanks for watching, and have a good one. And thanks for, we really appreciate all the backers. Hopefully the camera's still going. I kind of cut out last time, but really appreciate your support. and it wouldn't be possible without each and every one of you to make this as much as, you know, we really was kind of why we wanted to keep this last stretch goal, that the cards upgrade. You know, we wanted to kind of keep that one, see what the pledge manager was going to bring in, and then get the best one that we could for all the backers. Hopefully everyone enjoys that component upgrade. You know, I think it's, you know, that's kind of the one that, if you missed that video, that was the one I was pushing for, so I'm really happy with that. And hopefully this is the best product that, you know, everyone that backs can, you know, receive and enjoy for years to come. And who knows what the future will hold with Company Heroes, but I think the second edition, hopefully you'll enjoy it, and you'll you know, get what you wanted out of it. So that's it. Thanks again. This is Brian Crummy, lead designer from Bad Crow, and see you next time.